Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So what I'm gonna do today is just a soldering video. I'm gonna be attaching these two potentiometers to my GTX 480. This is a 480 that I don't think you have seen on the channel yet. It's not the one that I modded a while ago. That's this one. You can see is the one that I modded. That one already had Voltmods on it, but this one is in kind of a bad shape. Like I already got it in pretty bad shape, and it's one of the first cards I ever modded, so I made it even worse. And I have two more GTX 480s, not counting these two, so I decided to just mod a new one. And that's what this is. So you can see the card's already insulated. It already has a ton of cap mods on it, and it even has this, which is an EVC hookup. So I can use the MO EVC with this. However, this is on a CHA 8266 controller, and if you watch the recent video about my problems with CHL controllers and the EVC, yeah, this one has similar issues. Sometimes you apply something and it doesn't actually apply, and sometimes it just can't see the controller in the first place. So I decided to just physically Voltmod. And also I can, the EVC can probably see the memory controller, but it can, like, it doesn't have a profile for it. So yeah, so the cap mods have been on here for a while. I recently put the installation on, because I already ran the card with the phase change. That's also why there's like a cutout in here, so I can keep the base plate but also have the phase change on here, so I had to make this hole a bit bigger. And yeah, so the card's already doing pretty well. Cold, even if, yeah, so I basically ran the card at 1.2 volts, which you don't even need the EVC for, because you can easily just BIOS mod the card to a maximum of 1.213 volts. And at that voltage the card already does almost 1100 megahertz core, which is pretty good. So I intend to give the core a bit more voltage, like 1.3. 1.4 might actually be where this VRM blows up. Like, this is a reference card. And like, the EVC can lower the switching frequency on this. The stock switching frequency on this is 450 kilohertz. That's quite high, especially on a reference PCB. Like the reference PCB for the 480 is actually pretty strong, but like the core also pulls an insane amount of current. So yeah, so I can't change the switching frequency without the EVC, but the EVC is very flaky, so I guess we'll stay at 450 kilohertz, which means that this VRM will now tolerate less voltage before blowing up. So 1.4 might actually be where this journey ends, but since we're already seeing very good results at 1.2 volts, and 1.3 should work without problem on this, it's still worth it to try and mod this. And then also I want to raise memory voltage to maybe get some more memory clock out of this. Though memory overclocking on Fermi is mostly limited by the memory controller of the core, not the memory chips themselves, from what I heard. So I don't know how well this does, but like I've had 480s at ambient before, and increasing memory voltage did help those at ambient. It remains to be seen if it helps at cold. But yeah, let's just get into the actual modding part. I've already prepped a lot of it, so here's I already have the cables pre-trimmed. The potentiometer is already hot glued to the card. Also set the right resistances, so the memory potentiometer is a 10 kilo ohm one, the core is a 100 ohm one. Our hookup points, so for the, let me adjust that. The memory hookup point, that's actually quite bad to see here with all the capacitors. It's right here, you can kind of see how there's flux there. That side of that capacitor, and then there's also like a probe point here that's also connected. That's for memory. And for the core, it's this resistor right here next to that capacitor. Those are the hookup points for the Voltmods. And yeah, if you wanna know how, if you wanna have some more insight into how Voltmods work, I think I made a video about that a while back. It's kinda old and might also have some inaccuracies in it, but for just the basic idea of how the Voltmod works, it should be enough. Because the basic theory is just, you take the feedback pin by putting this potentiometer in parallel to the resistor setup it already has. You're skewing the voltage of the feedback pin, so the controller thinks it's putting out a different voltage than it actually is, and you force it to compensate. And yeah, that's how you get more or also less voltage if you wire the potentiometer to the output instead of to ground. Okay, I actually have to get quite close. You might see my hair or something pop in. Should have pre-timed those cables. Just do the old wire twist trick. Okay, that's on. It's kind of flimsy, which is why I use very short cables, except for the one that goes to the controller. And you go in here. I also now realize that I maybe should have put the camera a bit closer to the car. I can't really put it any closer though. Like, that's just how the camera arm, like, it doesn't go lower than this, sadly. So, that's mostly secure. I should put some flux on that though. I forgot to do that for the next couple ones because it was, this was a bit... So yeah, so for the memory we have now our output side. The other side I'm just gonna be using the ground leg of these capacitors here that I added to the 12-volt input. So what side do we first? I would like to do the leg first. Let's turn the card again. So now we have flux on the leg, it should be a lot easier. Yeah, that flows quite nicely. There we go. There should even be some residual flux on the capacitor leg from when I soldered it on. My hands are quite shaky today. It's not very good. So how do I do this now? Come on. Just like put it down. Is that on? Ah, it's on. So a memory Voltmod is connected. I should be doing a small test segment at the end of the... Well, actually, I don't really have any cooler to go on this card except the phase change. Yeah, I don't know if I can include a test segment, because like my water block might... The tubes might collide with this part of the base plate. I can see if I can put a water block on it to test if it works. Like, it should work. It's the exact same circuit that I have on the other 480, and that one worked just fine. So this is the ground. Let's just first do the ground side of this one. So that goes to the other capacitor leg here. capacitor is kind of in the way. Now it's on. We want you go on there. Kinda wanna put a bit more in there, that connection doesn't look that great. That looks better. Well, it's not coming out. All right. So for this one, I was planning to kind of have it through here. It's actually quite long. And even be able to like, no, for that it's too short. Let's just first do the potentiometer part. Could even like do this by hand with the big one. Okay, now I wanted to route it like this to the backup point, which is right here. Come on. Bit of solder on the soldering iron, and we already have flux on there. It's gonna have to be careful not to bridge it to any of the other components here. There we go. I just have to see if I can like wedge it under this capacitor so it doesn't flop around. It might stay, I don't think it will stay for long. Okay, let me... The end is on at least. I'm gonna have to kind of closely visually inspect some of these connections because the light's quite bad right now and I can't really see it. Just make sure that... Yeah, like the connections are not perfect, but it should work. It's not bridged to anything. Okay, the potentiometer ones look fine. The ground ones should be fine. Oh, the memory controller also looks fine. Not my best work ever, but at least I don't have like giant cables this time. It's like, well, I mean, they kind of stand up, but like, not a whole lot. Okay, there we go. We now have manual voltage control. Measuring the voltage is gonna be quite interesting. So for the memory, I kind of have this capacitor up here. That's still a bit exposed. For the core, well, this is all covered in needed eraser, so I could Just like take one of the... I soldered some caps behind the core. That's why it's like... looks like a bunch of little like hills. Just use this upper one here that's kind of exposed to measure the voltage directly behind the core. Alternatively, this empty MOSFET screen right here, that's also V-core, and then you just use any ground. I like to use this thing, because that's ground. Or just the I/O shield. So, here we are. Well, looks fine. I might also, no actually, might be worth to also put a mod on the PEX rail, which is under the base plate. So I'm gonna have to like get the cables out here to the side, because at least on 500 series, I don't know if it's true for 400 series, but they are pretty similar. It's the same architecture, just 500 series is more matured. On ambient, undervolting the PEX rail on 500 series gives you more core clock, and then sub-zero might actually be, I've been told that an overvolt might actually help on the PEX rail. So it might be worth doing this. You don't have any like cold boot bug or cold bug issues with this, at least not at phase change temperatures. Most NVIDIA cards do not have like, well, I think like 1080 Ti's or something you have to overvolt PEX. Oh, I don't really know. Like I think some NVIDIA cards have like display dropout issues, so you have to overvolt PEX a bit. But I think other than that, they're mostly fine. Like this thing Sub-Zero is just, it just cooperates. Not like the AMD cards. So I've ran the 580 DRX2 Sub-Zero. That one was fine. Just it was just like, well, I mean it ended up modded at the end, but like not a lot. Then I had a R9280 and a 7970, and those two were just, they had cold boot bugs at around -20, and just generally they would crash a lot, and every time they crash so hard you have to restart the system, so you have to warm it up to -20 or more again for the card to initialize properly, so it's very annoying. And then there's this 480, which is just fine again. So yeah, like NVIDIA cards are a lot easier Sub-Zero than AMD cards. So yeah, so I'll be running this 480 more. By the way, if you've been wondering, since I've said I have 4 480s, I didn't bin, like, I mean I did bin the cards at ambient, but like they were literally all clocking the same. Like on ambient they all had the same core clock and same memory clock. They all have Samsung E-Die. Like they were all doing the same on ambient. So I thought just like, well, I just do all of them Sub-Zero. But this, I did this one first because I did put all of those cap mods on it at some point. So I was like, well, this has the best chance of being good. And yeah, it is pretty good. Like, just under 1100 core. In, was it Firestrike? Yeah, Firestrike. So that's pretty good. I think, I don't know. Actually, I don't remember what kind of scores I took with this card already. So I'll have to revisit that. But yeah, the card's volt modded now. Memory's also volt modded now. So I will no longer be dependent on the EVC deciding to work or not. To, yeah, have proper voltage control on this card. And then I can run it with the phase change again in soon. I don't think today. I have quite a lot to do this weekend, so I don't know when I'll find time, but I will run this card again, and hopefully we will crack 1100 core and maybe more. But yeah, so that's the video, like literally just soldering on 4 wires. How long's the video? 20 minutes, hey, at least it's short for my standards. So, yeah, I don't really have anything more planned for this video. Just kinda, I don't know, it's like a behind the scenes video or whatever. I guess it's a behind the scenes video, it's just like, this is how I prep the card. Except you missed like most of it. Like the cap mods I put on like several months ago and then just never tested the card. The needed eraser is quite new from when I first ran the card on phase change. So yeah, that will be it for the video. I hope it was somewhat interesting. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and until next time, goodbye. So, here's a little bonus at the end of the video. So the card's running, and it's working. So, here we can see how the card thinks it's running at 1.2 volts, and here's the render test to make sure the card is actually under load. And yeah, so we should be seeing this for vCore and then 1.6 for memory at stock. But actually, if we now go measure behind the card, it's gonna be a bit awkward with the smartphone in one hand, so just bear with me here. We're going to a capacitor behind the memory, and we have 1.7 volts. So I've already set the Voltmods to what I would want. So here's 1.7 volts behind the memory, and then on that one capacitor behind the core, here we have 1.3 volts. So our two potentiometers are working, Voltmods are working, everything's fine. That's where my ground spot was, and the camera decided to unfocus again. So yeah, card's working. Might as well just do some ambient benching if I feel like it. But yeah, we have working Voltmods now for both memory and core. So when I can find the time to set up the phase change cooler again, this will hopefully help in getting better results. So yeah, that now really is the end of the video though. Goodbye.